Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Logan. How are you, Logan?
Oh man, I'm good, Jordan. It's these weeks, man, they sometimes go by way too slow. Um, and that by weeks I mean work weeks. Sometimes they feel like they fly, sometimes they feel like they don't. But feels like Monday still, which is not a good feeling. So,
But it's,
but how you
but
doing,
it's
Jordan?
Tuesday, so it's a good
It
feeling,
is,
right?
yeah. That reminds me, it is Tuesday.
Yeah. This podcast makes me think it's Monday because we used to do it on Mondays all the time.
Yes.
I'm
Oh yeah,
doing
we should probably tell people that.
I'm doing all right. Yeah, we're gonna start recording on Tuesday, so you'll probably get it, Wednesday morning, somewhere around there, late Tuesday night, instead of Tuesday morning, late Monday. Uh, just work schedules, right? Um, but yeah, we're here to be talking about all of match day 8 and some other great and bad things that happened in the week before the games that took place. We had some CCC happen, right? We also had a transfer happen that I'll tell you, they were lucky we were done recording by the time this came out. Would it come out like that night or the next day or something? I think it was like the next day or something.
Yeah, it was the next day because I saw it that next day at work when that news dropped.
Yeah, Daniel Gazdag transferred to Columbus for $4.5 million. That's what Philly receives. We talked a little bit about let's actually get on front of his too. We guest starred on a podcast by the Designated Players podcast um, with Andrew and Connor that had we were talking about what teams were surprises, good and bad, and I think Andrew had kind of said, "Oh, Philly would be out there," and I kind of struck that down as a Philly fan. I said a couple weeks ago I would have agreed, but go check that episode out. It came out Monday night. If you want to go check that out on their YouTube or their audio listening device, where you can check that out as well. So I don't want to cover too much ground with that again, but for our audience here who hasn't seen that yet, um, this was another one where you text me. What's funny? I had actually seen the Tom Bogert post come up, and it was just like I just wiped it away real quick, not seeing what it was or who it was for. I was like busy doing something at work. I was like,
Leave me alone,
just
Tom.
slide that away. Yeah, just slide that away. And then when you sent it, I was like, oh, is this what I saw but didn't actually read? Um, and another just head scratching move by the Philadelphia Union. There's layers to it too, right? Who they traded him to, being now the top of the East, Columbus Crew, and involved in a goal in his first game, to the timing of it. It sounds like they may have been trying to do this and just got the deal done late before the deadline for this. I don't know, man. They were third place when they made this trade. Third place in the East. Was that a surprise? Yes. I mean, like I did not see third place, and guess what? I don't think they'll see third place again at this rate. They're in a really bad stretch of form here, and they give up their all-time leading goal scorer, Daniel Gazdag, is gone. And I see Union fans explain it away of it's good business. It's uh he doesn't fit the system anymore, blah 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 blah. That's lame. I'm done with that. I just am. You know what this feels like? This feels like if you look at like the baseball trade deadline and you have your obvious sellers, the people that are in the cellar of the division selling off their talent to try to get prospects back or whatever. But The Union were not even close to the cellar of their division. They were still competitive at this time when they make the transfer. And to me, it reeks of, like I get he's on like his last year of the contract or whatever, or next year. I forget what it is. And people are like, well, at least we don't lose him for nothing. That's just loser mentality. It really is. I'm just done with that. Like, we keep losing players, player after player after player. Now, do some of the players that come in afterwards perform well? Sure, but I mean, he already said they're not bringing in anybody. They got young players that are going to fill in. Not Cavan, they said. So, I mean, it's just like, so we have this kid signed. He's probably going to leave at 18 without barely playing for the team. Played enough to break the record for youngest player in an MLS match, and then hasn't really featured that much since. And then you have this, you know, you keep getting rid of the goal scorers. This takes me back to 2011. They just got done making the playoffs, had a great season that year. I was really hyped. I was like, hey, this is our second year in the league and we're in the playoffs. Like, this is great. And then they trade away Sebastian Letou, the fan favorite, the goal scorer. And he didn't want to leave. Like, he was like as shocked as everybody else is. He gets transferred, traded, whatever, and eventually makes his way back to the Union. But then they had the whole issues with Peter Nowak and stuff, who was managing, and player revolting and all that kind of fun stuff that happened a year after making the playoffs. We are just still 2.5 years removed from the MLS Cup final. And this team has just made backward steps each and every way. And I don't want to blame like Bradley Carnell because it's not his fault, but this makes it seem like this is why they wanted to get rid of Jim Curtin, is because we saw how hard Curtin fought to keep Kai Wagner, to keep Alejandro Bedoya. And Tanner has instead replaced him with a guy that's like, cool, do what you want. Just give me the pieces and I'll try to make a puzzle. And that seems to be, more than anything, of missing the playoffs last year or whatever, the impetus of getting rid of Curtin is to get rid of somebody that would say no and get somebody that says yes. And that's where we're at with the Union right now. And now, like we were talking about on the other show a couple weeks ago, they would have been a huge surprise. First week, second week, third week, I was hyped to have them be so good. They have like not won in their last 5 or whatever the stat is, and they're not scoring at the rate they were. Ty Baribo has slowed down so much. Brian White caught up to him, though Brian White did 4 of those 6 in one game. We'll get to him. But it's that type of mentality that I'm having, that now as a fan of Philadelphia Union, where I had low expectations going into the season and then it seemed they were surpassing them, now my hopes are dashed again. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this as a impartial judge?
I think anybody listening to this podcast that watch sports or have been through a sports fandom, I think can understand to this, or relate to this at least. Because I feel like everybody that I've ever talked to, whether you're an MLB fan, an NBA fan, NFL, NHL, Premier League, like, there's this expectation that your club is advancing and investing in themselves in a way, Jordan, that they're improving each year, right? And if they're not improving each year, what are they doing to set themselves up for the future? Which I've always felt like the Philadelphia Union have done. I've always felt like they've had a plan for the future when it came to the kids. That being said, Jordan, I don't feel like they take that to the next step with their professional first team. Like, I feel like there's this reactionary, uh, attitude, and I guess in the Philadelphia front office. Like, I felt like the Jim Curtin thing came a little later than I thought it would. I don't know. It just, everything seems to be very reactionary with Ernst Tanner and the Philadelphia Union, where they're reacting to not playing well. They're reacting to maybe problems that had kind of bubbled up underneath the surface with some of their veteran players, right? Because we've had the conversations where, did Ali Bedoya have those conversations with, Martinez or Jim Curtin or whoever he needed to have those conversations with. Now he's kind of fallen back into the back. And, they go out and hire Bradley Carnell, which was a really odd hire. And you and I talked about that, where, he had 1 year of success with St. Louis, but before that, he'd not really had success where he'd been with Red Bull, where he'd been with St. Louis. He started to have a really bad year last year and just made everything worse in St. Louis. And then he left. And then now you're seeing him argue with former St. Louis players, which you're kind of like, that's weird. I Jordan, there are these clubs around MLS that have these stigmas of not spending. What are they doing? And last year, Jordan, we had these conversations of Philadelphia being a good team. We had people in our mentions, right, about the Philadelphia Union and their future. This year, I think they're more fitting. Like this year, I feel like everything that they were saying about this team last year is fitting the bill. But it's not because of the personnel necessarily. It's because of the people making the decisions on who that personnel is. And to get rid of Daniel Gazdag, Jordan, I don't think people realize that he was once a MVP candidate. He was one of the best players in the league a couple of years ago.
A player that said he would want to have finished his career here.
Right. I don't understand this. So again, I always have this thing where I feel like as a sports fan, I'm starting to feel this way more and more so as I watch. I'm a Cubs fan, and watching the Cubs constantly whiff on people because they refuse to invest in the club. Stop putting luxury boxes in stadiums and building your stadiums for the luxury experience and then marketing this luxury experience when the team on the field is not a luxury to watch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of the clubs making it a business venture rather than
every sport right now. It is like we talked about it on the other show too with the designated players, where they pissed off fans by putting premium seating in front of the river end, which now players can't just go and celebrate in front of the river end and the Sons of Ben. There's people that paid like $1,000 some dollars to sit there instead. And when you keep pushing that, oh, here's a luxury box, or here's like a luxury this thing, and come to our cool level of the stadium where all this stuff is exclusive if you pay $1,500 a season. And it's just getting to be too much, and it prices out. We've talked about prices before on this podcast, but it ends up pricing out the normal everyday people that are the diehards that would go to games every day if they could, right? If prices were reasonable. MLS prices are still pretty reasonable compared to the NFL or NBA and stuff like that, but it's for a game for a place that a league that has 17 home games a season. It's still pricey to go to these, where if you don't have season tickets, I go to maybe 1 to 3 a season that I can get to, when not using a press pass and doing this for the podcast and stuff, but just going and paying for my wife and I, and now I'll have to be paying for my son, my wife and I, when we go up there at some point. It's a lot. And then, like you said, the Cubs have been good this year, but there's been years where they haven't fielded a good team. And this team that's like, okay, yeah, we're going to keep running out the kids and the players we already have on our payroll, and we're going to keep upping everything else in the vicinity. That's tough. And I understand it's a business. I understand these companies are trying to make money, but I don't want to feel like I am the ATM. I want to feel like they want to win. Yeah, the owner wants to make money, but let the GM do their job to make this a competitive team. Let the coach have the players he needs to make this a competitive team, and give the fans something. We're talking about a club that has come so close multiple times. 2014 Open Cup, 2015 Open Cup, 2018 Open Cup. Then you have the 2022 MLS Cup final. Before that, 2021 Eastern Conference, right? Final. They lose to NYCFC, who go on to win the whole thing. 2020, they win the Supporters Shield. That almost wasn't given anyway because of the shortened season due to 2020. And they played the Revs 3 times. And if we're looking at this season, as long as you're not Atlanta, that means you're winning 3 of those games, right? So there is... This club has come so close so many times, but never have added the pieces to get them over that hump. And now here we are just continuing to sell them off. They lost Brendan Aronson. Of course, he wants to go overseas. I don't blame him. Paxton barely plays for the Union. What, a season and a half, 2 seasons maybe? And then he's gone. Kevin Sullivan, like I said, is not going to feature as much as people want him to. I wouldn't be shocked if Quinn Sullivan leaves sometime soon or they trade him away to the Red Bulls or some shit. And then, why are you giving him to Columbus? That's another thing I don't get. And then they're like, well, this is a win-win. That's bullshit. You can't say this is a win-win when you lose one of your all-time goal-scoring leaders, the guy, like you said, who was an MVP candidate, and don't replace him, and you give him to the team that was below you in the standings for the first 3 weeks, and now is surging ahead under one of the best head coaches who is on track to be one of the best of all time if he stays in this league, in their route to go win another MLS Cup. I don't understand. I don't get it.
No, it's completely frustrating. I mean, imagine being a fan of this. Like, it just, I'm happy that the owners for Orlando City have come in and spent money. Now, they've spent it investing in players that are good. They've invested in talent. They're investing in the players, in the coaches, in the development of their academies. Like, that feels good. But as a fan, when you can see, like, Jordan, this move, even on financial book, it doesn't make any sense. Like, unless you have, we can say that we're wrong in a week if they come back and say, hey, we have money for Kevin De Bruyne. Like, that's who we're, that's who we're
gonna
ushering
play in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Not, right.
Okay.
Right. This would be totally different if this was Miami or LA or Austin
or even
Columbus,
actual
maybe.
Philly. Like,
right.
Philly,
yeah.
like, they know the Sixers over there.
Right.
They watch basketball, and like,
yeah.
Philly has so much history, but you're playing in Chester.
Yeah. Where again, I just feel like there is this move, Jordan, to where like they were still one of the top teams and still are one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference based on their standing. Now, Jordan, I just don't like, what does this team do? Like, they're really going to struggle without a central midfielder who is arguably one of the best creators in the midfield in MLS. Like, it's just going to become an apparent issue.
1 win in their last 5. That was against St. Louis. They had 3 straight wins to start the season. That was the high point, right? They lose to Nashville. They unraveled against Nashville. They beat St. Louis. You're like, okay, here's the rebound. They lose to Miami. And you know what? You're like, yeah, that tracks, right? Like, I didn't think at Miami they actually had a good shot to win that game. Maybe a draw. And they draw with Orlando in their first of 2 0-0 draws. Orlando had back-to-back. And then they lose at NYC, playing at Citi Field, not Yankee Stadium. And now they have Atlanta, DC, Montreal. So here's your chance, right? Atlanta has not been good, not lived up to the hype. DC has been woeful. And they have Montreal, who's been awful. You should get 7 to 9 points in those 3. And if you don't, then you're looking at real dark times, I think, for the rest of the season. I understand it's MLS. I understand anybody can win, blah, 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 blah. But those teams are not good. You beat good teams earlier this season. It's time to just show what you got again and see if you can beat those teams. I guess we can move on. But he had 72 goals and 161 appearances in all comps. Gone. Okay. And he went on to win 2-1 against St. Louis, and he played a role in that goal. I think it was a what we call a secondary assist. So Daniel Gazdag gets off to a good start with the Crew as they beat St. Louis 2-1. They've come from behind 3 times this season. You had Steven Moreira scoring a goal and Diego Rossi scoring the goal. They are now back on top of the Eastern Conference, 18 points. And they are unbeaten, as well as Inter Miami. And those two face off this weekend coming up. So that is a pretty big game, and it's going to be played in Cleveland for some godforsaken reason. That reason is money.
Leon will be there.
Any thoughts on the Crew?
They got one hell of a midfielder, Jordan, on the transfer.
Yeah, tell me about him.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about Daniel Gazdag for you, for the former Philadelphia Union fan. No, Jordan, like this is one of the most hyped games I think I've ever had as far as like MLS. I can say that pretty confidently, actually. Like I'm looking forward to this game more than I've looked forward to any game. Spoiler alert! Like I'm excited to see what Cleveland's got to show. Like they usually have some really good fans. I can't wait to see what that looks like on a soccer level in the Midwest. Like we haven't really seen that, right? Like in the Midwest where we can really see like in Ohio and Indiana and Illinois where like we saw, I guess, with the Fire just this weekend. Like they packed that stadium. Soldier Field had the most people they've ever seen. But like Cleveland feels like that's like blue collar America. That's like an unbelievable amount of fans that are passionate about sports because they got really nothing else in that city to be happy about. No offense, but except the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, very cool. But yeah, like I'm excited for this, Jordan. I think the Crew come into this game with the ability to become a nemesis, a rival to Inter Miami at this point. Like I feel like they just got rid of Cucho. Now they bring in Gazdag, who I think has the ability to make this team special, and I'm not sure they're done yet. Like I think in the summer the Crew will add more pieces. So yeah, no, I'm really excited about this. But like just to go back to the Crew and the way that they're playing right now, an unbelievable signing. Something I didn't think they had up their sleeves, but they're probably really happy they made that call to Philadelphia and Ernst Tanner. If I'm other league or teams around the league, I'm calling Ernst Tanner about other players.
Yeah. How much for Quinn? How much for Cavan?
You selling Cavan? Dude, can we get a loan here from Man City? So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, I think, just such a good team. And you give them another dangerous weapon. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if, I know it's early, but if they go all the way again, like it's just one of those things. You can't count them out with their coach, with their roster, and they get stronger. And they were like treading water until they got stronger too, right? It's not like they're the Galaxy struggling at the bottom and get Gazdag hoping that'll help. They were swimming fine until they even got that signing, and now it makes them even better. Inter Miami went scoreless for the first time this season. They had some great results in the Champions Cup this weekend, in the midweek when they beat LAFC to get through there, to have the right to face Vancouver Whitecaps in a cage match that's going to be, with the two best teams in MLS kind of going up against each other. That are still left in the tournament, I guess, because the Crew aren't. But, what a game that was. That second leg just gave us a lot of great material. And it was a joy to watch. I know people sometimes don't like when it gets chippy. I love when it gets chippy. When you see these players like ready to throw hands, I'm like, this is great. Like this is the atmosphere I want in a game. Those are fun, but Greg Berhalter stepped up, and the Fire held them to a 0-0 draw. And actually, Chicago looked the more threat in this game. So now Miami has to go, still unbeaten, and face off against the Columbus Crew, who are kind of hitting a stride right here.
Battles of the unbeaten, Jordan. See who wins. But well, Greg's got this Fire team looking a lot better.
It's funny because this is a sport where Battle of the Unbeatens can still lead with both of them being unbeaten because they can just get a draw and move on.
That's what we want, a 0-0 draw.
Yes. No, I'll take like a 3-3. That'd be fun.
I always feel like the Goliath versus Goliath matches never do well in soccer. Like every time I watch those in the Premier League, it's like a 0-0 draw.
Like the Manchester Derby. You're like, oh yeah,
always
this is great.
Yeah. Them every time we played Chelsea for a while, it was like 1-1 or 0-0. I'm like, this is brutal, like just awful. And they score like the first 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, and after that they don't score again. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. But the Fire, they've been a shock team this season. But really it was just that 3-game stretch where they really came alive against Dallas, Toronto, Vancouver. They've had 3 draws, 3 wins, 2 losses. They're almost pretty dead even when you talk about wins, losses, and draws. Just, if they play Cincinnati and lose, they will have like the perfect trifecta of losses, ties, and wins.
Is this a playoff team?
No. I you know what? I'll say maybe the wild card.
Yeah.
I don't like the play-in. Yeah, I don't know if they can keep it up. Because I know right now they're high in the table, right? Mm-hmm. But like I said, 3 of those wins were in a stretch of like 3 weeks. And then they drew, lost, and drew. So I don't know. That's a question. They week 1 they lost to Columbus 4-2, but remember, like they had that early 2-goal lead, and we're like, oh my god, look at what Chicago's doing. And then unfortunately we watched what Chicago was doing, and they lost the game. And then they had that crazy game against DC, and then then they were kind of respectable for those, like I said, at Dallas, at Toronto, at Vancouver. It was a 3-game road trip. They come back home, draw with Montreal, go to Red Bull Arena. That's what I still call it. They lose there. And then they are hosting Miami and draw there. Their stretch of games they have coming up here is Cincinnati, at Nashville, Orlando, Atlanta, Charlotte. Let's say the next 5 games. Those are a lot of good teams, right? Like I would worry about them against like Orlando, Cincy. Nashville's kind of a toss-up for me. And then Atlanta, it's like what Atlanta shows up. But Charlotte's a good team. So then they have to go there. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. If we look at who they've actually played this season, the shock one is that Vancouver win, right? The rest of their results look kind of like, expected, I would say.
There are 4 teams, Jordan, I think, in the Eastern Conference that don't have a shot at the playoffs. New England, DC, Toronto, and Montreal. So that then leaves 2 teams that will fight for the play-in, right? The wild card, that won't get it, the 10 and 11. I looking at the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th teams, even if you threw Orlando in there, I personally think Chicago's the worst one out of those 5. You can make an argument maybe for NYCFC. I'm still not convinced Atlanta's going to be sitting there at the end of the year. Like they have too much talent, and I think they'll figure it out to where they'll move up into the playoffs. I just don't have confidence in them being better than Red Bull or even NYCFC.
Yeah, I can see that. And if you look at Atlanta, I know we're still buying into them here.
Yeah.
9 points. If they get 1 win, that jumps them up to 7th place. Like they would be tied with 7th, 8th, 9th if those 3 teams lose as well. Which it doesn't that's not impossible. They're still in it. That's that's I think that's where my cutoff was too, right? Was 11th for teams that are still going to factor in the playoffs. New England's starting to creep up there now because they got a couple wins, but yeah, I don't know.
The Fire have done all their damage on the road. That's wild. They've lost 3 at home.
Yeah. Let's talk about Vancouver. They smashed Austin. I almost said Atlanta. 5-1. Brian White 4-goal game. He wins player of the match day. I'll tell you, I voted for him. I'm sure you voted for him.
Yep.
So that's going to be in our name and shame segments. He's our player of the match day. It's his 3rd player of the match day. Do you know the other Vancouver player that had it at least 3 times?
Gould?
No, Camilo Sanvezo.
Really?
Yeah. 3 times. That's the only other Vancouver player to get it at least 3 times.
They
Brian
do a lot
White,
of that though.
What?
A lot of first. Like
Yeah.
it's the hold on, let me try to find it. Where was it? It was like Brian White's goal. His 4 goals was like the first time that an ML or that a Caps player had done it, I believe. Ever. Where did I put that note? I thought I put that in there somewhere. Oh, well,
I have some other stuff here for you too. Brian White and Ty Baripo are the only players to win the award of Player of the Match Day in both 2024 and 2025 so far. Now it's only been a few match days, but that's a pretty big deal. He has reached now 52 regular season goals, which making Whitecap history as the club's first player to score 50 regular season goals.
Yeah. And the first player ever, Jordan, for the Vancouver Whitecaps to score 4 goals in an MLS game.
It's his 3rd career hat trick, which is also one of 6 active players with at least 3 hat tricks. And he trails 2 players who have more hat tricks than him. Do you know those 2 players?
Active in MLS right now?
Yeah, that have more hat tricks than 3.
Joseph Martinez.
Yeah, he has 7.
Another striker.
Hani Mukhtar has 4.
That's who I was gonna. That's crazy though. That's incredible.
That's good company. It's good company.
Yeah.
Why did the Red Bulls get rid of him?
Drugs. I don't know. Jordan.
Was Ernst Tanner the head of Red Bull at that point?
Yep.
Or
Yep. Too many goals, Jordan. Red Bull don't do that. You got to play defense. It's like Nico Harrison with Dallas Mavericks. Got to play defense to win championships. You can't score goals. Nope.
I remember that trade too, and I'm like, that's a shocker. And then it's worked out so far for Vancouver, not working out for the Red Bulls.
Mauricio Pochettino, Jordan. Interested in Brian White? Maybe.
I mean, he brought him in last time, right? So yeah. I think
there's legit interest there.
I do. I think if look, we're not free of the injury bug all the time, and you also have Sargent who scores occasionally in the championship, but doesn't really translate to the national team lately. So
who else, right? Like
instead of Sargent, you could see White getting a call in.
Right.
He's in form. This is the type of thing where like the Gold Cup rolls around. I don't see any reason why you can't call him in and just say, you're in form right now. Like go out there and score goals. It shouldn't always be about, like the best fit or the best player. Sometimes it's got to be the guy that is hot at the moment.
Jordan, give me flames on X by giving me Diego Luna in the midfield starting with Brian White as your main striker. I want to see X on fire because 2 MLS young, Twitter. Well, not Brian White's, Brian White's not young, but 2 MLS guys, 2 MLS products carrying this team through the Gold Cup. That's what I want to see.
Could happen. Could happen.
Won't happen.
Did you see the Diego Luna meeting Diego Luna from Andor?
No.
Yeah, MLS shared that, and it was like I guess Diego Luna was at the red carpet
The red
event for
carpet.
Andor season 2, and they shared a thing of like Diego Luna meeting Diego Luna. It was weird. I retweeted it. I was like, "What is this? What happened? Why is Diego Luna there? I know why that Diego Luna is there, but why is this Diego Luna there?"
I would have loved to have been with the press or the PR person that got that call or email. Hey, we got something fun for you that you'll really enjoy. And they'll go, who? Who's that?
Like, does Diego Luna like soccer? Does he know Diego Luna? Or is it like, does Diego Luna like Star Wars? And they were like, we have the same name? I don't know. That's the interesting thing.
Are the people on Andor big RSL fans?
Could be. Could be. I don't know. It was really weird.
That is weird.
It was so late at night. I seriously thought I was having like a fever dream. Okay. I really did. I was like, what is this tweet? Like, what is I'm gonna send it to you now because I have to find it.
I'm dying.
It was
I can't wait for this to be a clip on YouTube. Can you clip just this conversation?
It was shared. It was shared on the MLS Espanol account. Okay, so not even on regular MLS did they share this. But I'm sending it to you now. I don't know why this happened. I don't know. It's not even like they're on ESPN to be like, oh, we got to make this collaboration with Disney or anything. It's seriously just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't. I'm confused. Like, it'd be different if he was like an LA Galaxy or LAFC player.
Yeah, so he had to travel from RSL to go to this Hollywood event. Like,
it's definitely one of those things that like they definitely reached out with MLS and they're like, sure, I guess the professional soccer player wants to meet
think, yeah, I was gonna say, I think MLS would have reached out, not so much the, not so much Star Wars being like,
Lucasfilm.
Does anybody else have somebody named Diego Luna that we can get over here?
Can we get a cameo though? Like, could we get a cameo? Just filming Diego Luna coming in behind, just sliding into Andor, just like on his knees.
Yeah, or like he like kicks a BB-8 unit or something and like hits a stormtrooper in the head or something. There you go. This was an ad. Andor later next week. Apple's paying me to say this. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's talk about Colorado, who get the win against San Diego 3-2. San Diego was one of the teams that we mentioned as being a surprise club multiple times to start the season. We always joke about the Western Conference being upside down. Still looks that way, by the way. LAFC is still all the way down in 7th.
The West Conference is still drunk, everyone.
Yeah, still happening. San Diego is 14 points. They only have 2 losses, so this was their second loss here. Minnesota has now jumped them to 2nd. Like you said, Western Conference is very drunk right now. But yeah, so San Diego ends up losing. Colorado gets the victory that moves them up to 5th place. They're even on the goal differential as well, Colorado. And they're even on points with San Diego and Portland. So they're making the jump up. Austin has slid down. We were worried about them. They had scored 5 goals. They'd only given up 3 till they gave up 5 to the Whitecaps. So now they have given up 8 and have only scored 6. So Austin kind of slid down a bit. I wouldn't be shocked if they actually continue to slide down. But Colorado and San Diego still kind of holding their own up in the top 5.
Yeah, they look good. Colorado's again, they're kind of a weird team, Jordan. We talked about them last year in depth because we were like, well, they've got a bunch of good players. On paper, they look like, I mean, if you put this paper in front of somebody that knew MLS from years past and they weren't allowed to watch games and didn't know the history of the team from last year, I think they'd go, man, I'd pick Colorado to be one of the favorites because those are a bunch of really successful MLS formers that are on that team. So at a good age, it's not like they're all 40 playing. So, but yeah, no, huge result for Colorado. They needed this result against a very good San Diego team, Jordan. I think we're well past the stage now. We're 8 games in, where I really do feel like some of these teams we can start to say, like, this is a solid team that should be contending for some playoff spots. And San Diego seems to be one of those. So very interesting. The West is getting interesting because, Jordan, if you gave this Western Conference table to anybody else too, all those teams that were picked for playoff success are hanging out in 11th spot and below. So kind of an interesting table.
Yeah. San Diego, though, it's like your second loss. Can't worry too much about it. Just, you know, it just sucks they couldn't probably claw their way fully back in that regard. But yeah, Colorado keeps on chugging along now. They're kind of starting to go up the table. LAFC get their 3 points. They beat San Jose. They were knocked out in the Champions Cup. We talked about that. Giroux got a start, still doesn't score. And they win 2-1 over San Jose, who is hot and cold. This is a team we were all really looking forward to. They started off the season hot with 2 wins, 3 straight losses, a draw, a win as they smashed DC, and then they end up losing to LAFC. That's kind of one that you would have expected to lose, though, I think, at the beginning of the season. Now they get to go back to and face SKC again. So maybe they'll get a chance to rectify that. But this team, which started to look really good and had, I would say, higher expectations than typical, are sitting 9th with 10 points. Of course, that means they're only like 2 wins away from being second in the West, but is still not there yet. I'm guessing some of it could be them, still having to gel with a lot of the new cast coming in with Bruce Arena.
Yeah, and ran up against a team, Jordan, that really desperately wanted to win, because LAFC hasn't been good. And I saw glimpses in this game, Jordan, of LAFC starting to right the ship. Olivier Giroux almost scored. Like that should be worth something. The keeper knocks it away, and go figure, the rebound ends up being a goal of Boanga. But who also has struggled tremendously, and we haven't really talked about LAFC too much. But yeah, like I think this is a much needed win for LAFC, and like you said, something's not quite right with San Jose. It might be that gelling and understanding what Bruce Arena's system is going to look like. This year's kind of a pass for me with them. I was excited just because of Bruce and the talent that they had, and bringing in Chicho, which they could still turn this around, Jordan, like you said, in this game this early in the season. They could win 2, and they're right back up at the top, hanging out in the middle of the pack. But it just doesn't look right now. They got to right the ship somewhere.
Yeah, LAFC gets the win that they really needed. They end up, like I said, moving up to 7th place. They're only 3 points back from second. So we were talking about how they were disappointing, but they still have a chance, right? They still have a chance. Okay, so you posed the question here. Who has it worse right now? Philly, after they lose to NYCFC and have gone winless in the last 3 matches and lost Daniel Gazdag to Columbus, or Atlanta, losing 1-0 to the Revs at home and have just 1 win in their last 7? I think there's 2 ways to answer this question, Logan. There is the fan version, which I would say the Philly fan will absolutely have it worse. Because I don't know if you ever can look at it and say things are going to get better. Atlanta as a club have it worse because the expectations on them were so much higher than Philly going into this season. I don't want to toot my own horn or say that I am very special, but I had them winning MLS Cup, so that means I have a lot riding on them right now. and
Millions of dollars Jordan bet, by the way. No.
millions of fake money on them right now. Bragging points, all that good stuff. And they spent a lot of money in the offseason. So I do think it's worse for them because they have brought in new players. They have a new coach. They have everything that the Atlanta fans were asking for going into the season, I think. They're like, oh my God, like we can't keep Pineda. All right, good. He's gone. Here's Ronnie Daya, right? And then it's like, cool. Oh, a guy that's won MLS Cup. Awesome. Great. Things are looking up. And they're like, you want Miguel Almiron back? Boom. He's back. You want a goal scorer, Latte Lath? He's here. And fans are like, great. We spent like $40 million this offseason. This is great. But with that comes expectations. And when you're losing to one of the worst teams in MLS with New England, at that time, now they've kind of climbed up. But you're at Mercedes-Benz, and you lose to that team with all of the talent that you have. It's tough. It was kind of interesting hearing Dax McCarty talk about it on the wrap up because he used to play there last year. He says it doesn't seem like there's any on-field leadership besides Brad Guzan. And that's a problem. That's somebody that's a role Dax played in that club. So it'd be kind of interesting. He said they might have to end up, moving some of the lineup around, make some hard decisions there. I don't know what that includes. Do you bench Latte Lath? Do you what are you doing in that regard? But those are my answers to the questions you posited.
Yeah, no, I felt like that was a good point because we're going to talk about Atlanta anyway. So I was like, who's got it worse right now? There's a lot of teams that have it worse, Jordan. Some by their own doing, some by their own undoing. Philadelphia. Some not by their doing, like an LA Galaxy. So, I think it's always a fun question to ask when you're 8 to 10 games into it. What's going wrong right now? And there's a lot going wrong for a lot of teams. You could look up and down this list. There's always victims of injury, which kind of transitioning into the next game, Jordan, you have a Dallas team that's now without Petar Musa, who got hurt and stretchered off. Then you also had Seattle and Dallas lose at home 1-0 to Seattle. Both of those teams, Jordan, just don't. They're not going in the right direction. I feel like they're both kind of slumping through. They've got a Western Conference that, again, like you said and I said, they're drunk. The table seems to be on its head. But, Jordan, these teams above them are just playing better soccer right now. And, again, these are kind of 4 teams that I would lump together. Houston, too, put them in there as well as a team that I had higher expectations for that are just falling flat for me. And I think it all comes down to what Philadelphia has kind of done to themselves now. Speaking of the victim that takes themselves out. Like they're joining that group, Jordan. It's not a good group you want to be a part of the teams that they're disappointing. And there's things that the teams could do about it, but they just haven't been able to correct it.
Yeah, like you said, Dallas lose against Seattle. And they also lose their striker, Musa, right? We have Cincy winning their 3rd straight match. They beat DC 1-0. Charlotte beat Montreal on the road. That's usually where they've struggled, but they get the 3 points. They've still only conceded 7 this season. And then you had Toronto and Minnesota draw 0-0. Orlando and Red Bull draw 0-0. Nashville beat RSL 2-1. Galaxy and Dynamo drew 1-1 thanks to a late goal by Fagundes. And Portland beat SKC 4-2. Okay, and then quickly, let's talk about, I guess, the U.S. men's national team draw for the Gold Cup. So this is going to take place from June 14th to July 6th. And supposedly, the rumor is we're going to be bringing a fairly strong squad. MLS is going to pause the regular season play for the group stage like they usually do. Then the knockouts, I guess, you'll have to deal with missing players. 14 venues, 13 in the U.S., 1 in Canada. And we have most of them in the West because of the Club World Cup mostly being in the East. The United States got Group D, and they will also have Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, and guest Saudi Arabia. Now, that team beat Argentina in the World Cup, so that's might be tough. But this is a group they should get out of. I feel like
I don't know, Jordan. TNT's there.
Yes, TNT is there.
Hanging out.
No TBS, though.
American Dream. Yeah, no TBS. No Max. No True TV.
No. But I don't know. I think they should get through this.
Yeah.
You know, we have Group A, Mexico, Costa Rica, Suriname, and Dominican Republic. Group B is Canada, Honduras, El Salvador, Curacao. That's a tough one. And I think Group C.
I was going to say that's a rough draw.
Group C might be the toughest one. Panama, Jamaica, Guatemala, and Guadalupe. But yeah, we'll kind of preview more of that as we get closer to that time frame. And once we start getting squads, but the groups are set. Okay. Go ahead.
Something we didn't talk about. Just a real quick note. Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong. They voted and they're not we haven't talked about it on the show, I don't think. They are not switching to, at least not yet. They've decided not to switch to the fall-spring calendar. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, they said originally the plan was maybe that they would enact that after the World Cup. Now it says it would maybe take effect to 2027. Yeah. I do wonder if they do vote it, how they'll do that transition.
Me too.
After the season ends in December. Do you do like a tournament in the spring to keep people
MLS
fresh?
Is back.
Yeah, and then bring the season starting in August, July? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, do you give the MLS players that much time off?
Yeah, you don't want to give them 6 months being like not playing. You're going to lose interest from fans too.
Yeah, I think what you could do is that season before kind of drag it out more, like give the weeks off for. Well, again, I mean you're going to have to play in January anyway, but then you run into the problems with the stadiums. Yeah, that'll be really interesting, Jordan. That's a really good point. I don't know how do you. That's a weird transition to make right there. I mean, you have to.
I am so over the people complaining about this. I really am. I say it every time we mention it. When people say it's going to be too cold, I'm like, we already play in November,
Sports
December.
Too cold too. Yes, right.
And we already play in February. Because people will post stuff like, going to watch my team in February in MLS. And they'll be like, bundled up or frozen. And I'm like, the season already starts in February.
Right. But you go watch your NFL teams, which is funny to me, Jordan, because a lot of the teams or a lot of people that are complaining about that are from cities that go ahead and watch their teams play in the frosty cold.
Yeah.
If the Browns made the playoffs, the Columbus Crew fans are going to the Browns Stadium in January.
You take a 5-week winter break, which is what they're doing, supposedly. That's pretty much our off season as it is.
Yeah.
And then
indoor stadiums.
You're playing playoffs in the good weather. MLS Cup is not freezing. People show up to MLS Cup already, and it's freaking. There was one 2013 SKC. It was snowing. It was cold. It was brutal, and people showed up. That stadium was packed.
Yeah. That one game was really cold recently. The NYCFC Portland game. It was cold and rainy.
Yeah.
It was gross. It was nasty.
Let's get to name and shame. Player of the week. We talked about it. Brian White is both of ours. Oh, you picked the same goal of the week as me, too. This did not make the top 5 of wrap-up for some reason either. But Steven Moreira, what a goal by the Crew here. He comes just running in and bangs this thing home.
By a defender, nonetheless.
Yeah, that's what's so impressive about it, too, right? My funny pick is that third Brian White goal.
Where he decapitated the Austin FC player.
You guys like seeing stars getting up. I mean, it was...
Did he get up? I think he's still laying out there.
Because you asked me that the other day, oh, did you see it? And I hadn't yet. I watched it. And like that whole third time, because it's like comical too with how many people are missing and it's coming back. I was like, is this what he was talking about? Then you see this guy get splattered. I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about.
And he went flat. I mean, I hope he's okay. But he went flat, Jordan. Like, he went like
Oh yeah,
cartoon character flat. Like, just went, it hit him.
that hurts.
And you know that the net has the mic in it.
That hurts.
Like, I couldn't stop laughing. I had to watch it like 3 times.
Okay, let's get to our games that are coming up. As of this recording, the Riverhounds are beating Columbus Crew 2. Go USL, right?
Oh, dear.
So you got Pittsburgh Riverhounds beating Columbus Crew 2 1-0. They got to stop with the numbers. It's killing me. Trying to say a score like this or trying to read a score. You know, somebody posted like the Union 2 winning 5 to something, and I was like felt like I was having a stroke reading it. I'm like 25? Like, what is this?
Crew scored 25 goals? No.
Get those up to the senior team. What are we doing?
Right. Yeah, what are you doing?
Later tonight, Louisville and Loudoun are going to face off. Portland Hearts are going to face off against Rhode Island, Charlotte Independence, North Carolina, Charleston against South Georgia Tormenta, Union Omaha and San Antonio, Alta and Orange County, and then Tacoma Defiance, Oakland Roots. Tomorrow, the day that you're listening to this, probably, we have games at 7 o'clock on CBS Sports and Paramount. FC Naples and Tampa Bay Rowdies. Rowdies have a new coach coming in too because I think they just fired their other coach. Detroit City against Westchester, Indy 11 and Miami, not Inter Miami, Miami FC. FC Tulsa and Phoenix Rising, Colorado Springs, 1 Knoxville SC, New Mexico United and El Paso Locomotive, Sacramento Republic and El Farolito, Las Vegas Lights and Chattanooga Red Wolves SC. That Chattanooga derby, by the way, had a really good turnout in Chattanooga when it was Chattanooga versus Chattanooga Red Wolves in the Open Cup. This Saturday, we have a game kicking off at 1:45 on Fox and Apple TV. It is Austin facing off against the LA Galaxy. Then at 4:30, we have Columbus, Miami. Charlotte, San Diego kicks off the 7:30 games. Montreal, Orlando. Revs, NYCFC, Red Bulls versus DC, Seattle facing off against Nashville, and Philadelphia against Atlanta. The 8:30 games, Chicago facing off against Cincy, Houston, Colorado, St. Louis, Vancouver, Minnesota, Dallas. 9:30 game, we have one of those, RSL Toronto. 10:15, we have Portland, LAFC, that's also an FS1. And at 10:30, San Jose versus SKC. We do not have a Sunday game. Oh, because it's Easter. That's lame. Like Christ, MLS Sunday Night Soccer should rise again on Easter. I don't understand why they don't. Okay. Your game of the week, Logan.
That was funny. My game of the week, Jordan, I mentioned it earlier. It's going to be the Columbus Crew and the Inter Miami Herons. Really looking forward to this, the battle of the unbeaten. I think Columbus has the upper hand, Jordan. You don't usually hear that from a team playing against Miami, but Miami's not going real well right now. So they're kind of in that weird malaise of like we're dealing with CCC right now. We're going to put our phones on silent. Just don't bother us until we're done with this. I feel like this is a good opportunity for the Crew to kind of expand that lead that they've got in the Eastern Conference with Inter Miami, because Inter Miami, of course, Jordan is always going to seems inevitable, but they always got games in hand. Inter Miami, just because of the competitions that they're playing in all the time. But again, I think this is a nice way to do it. They got a game in hand right now. Miami in 4th, Columbus in 1st. And Columbus can really put some distance between them and Charlotte and Cincinnati, who are 2 points behind them. So should be an interesting battle in Columbus. The weather should be getting a little bit better up there in the Midwest. So crossing my fingers that it's pretty good weather for this game.
Give me Charlotte versus San Diego.
That's a good one.
That is good. Charlotte at home. where they're good. San Diego going on the road, cross country. They've been good to start the season. Give me that matchup. I would love to see it. So I think that's a fun early favorite. I almost said the one that you're doing for Shame of the Week. So tell me your Shame of the Week.
Shame of the week. Nobody wants to watch Philadelphia play Atlanta United.
I do.
Atlanta United one win in their last 7. Jordan, Philadelphia Union give away their best player. They go Nico Harrison on MLS and start selling off all their good players. By the time that this game is played, they're probably going to be playing with Gavin Sullivan out there by himself. But they've not won in 3 games, Jordan. And there are only 1 win in their last 5 matches. So I just feel like this is a recipe for disaster. It's in Philadelphia too, which at least when you're playing at Mercedes, things can get crazy. These two actually, Jordan, they're rivals from way back when they started getting in fights and stuff in CCL. When that was around, that was 1 or 2 where they were having their brawl out there on the field. That was kind of fun. That's when the Union were like at their peak. Like that might've been the year they went MLS Cup.
Against NYCFC when they had their brawl?
I thought that was Atlanta.
We had like a full-on brawl against NYCFC, and like our bench guy got involved too. You know, the assistant coach.
Maybe it wasn't Atlanta then. Maybe I'm fever dream.
I'm sure anyway, we've had some run-ins with.
I thought it was like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Like I thought you guys had some kind of scuffle.
I don't recall.
No, maybe I'm imagining that. I know you guys fought Saprissa like 3 times, but yeah, maybe I'm picturing that. But anyway, Jordan, I don't think these teams like each other. Every time they've played against it seems to be a physical game. They had Jose Martinez then, but it seems like 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that had been a really good Eastern Conference team, but this year, Jordan, they're just not very good.
All right, you hit my team. I'm going to hit your team. Montreal, that's Orlando. Fair. Okay, Montreal has been abysmal. Orlando's had 2 straight 0-0 draws. Will they ever score a goal again?
Never, ever again.
This just doesn't seem like it's going to be a fun game, and this game is going to end up being like 6-3 or something. Now that I said that, but yeah, that's like my thoughts on that.
1-0, 0-0 draw or 1-0 win for Montreal, just to make me mad.
What are your thoughts on how they've been playing the last 2 weeks? We didn't get to talk about it much.
Not great. Like, defensively, okay, we're getting better. But I'm still not convinced that this team can defend some of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, Jordan. Like, I wouldn't put this team above a 4 or 5 spot right now, just because defensively they just can't figure that out. They'll score goals. I'm not worried about that. They've proven they can score goals in Oscar Pareja's system, and you've got Duncan McGuire getting healthier and healthier. Once you start to see him fully healthy, I think you start to see him in that number 9 position more so than Muriel. But yeah, I just feel like I'm not confident in that midfield, which is a real bummer because they added Atuesta, and Araujo's always been pretty decent, but their center back depth and their keepers, Gales is just not it. So I don't know. I'm worried. 4 to 5 seed.
All right. Well, I guess that'll wrap us up here. Tonight, like I said, no game on Sunday. It's all on Saturday, so we'll be back on Tuesday to record. You'll get it Wednesday again, and we'll look ahead to the next CONCACAF Champions League games that are going to be taking place as well, which are not this week, but the following week. Tigres, Cruz Azul, Vancouver, Miami are the 2 matchups that are going to be happening on the 23rd and 24th as we get set for more Major League Soccer throughout the course of the season. So thank you all for watching and listening along. You can catch us on our socials that are in the description below or in your show notes of the podcast app. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next time.